Early morning in Pantasma, a village in northern Nicaragua, less than 30 kilometers from the troubled border with Honduras. Once no more than a tiny hamlet, the district now has a population of 15,000, many of them peasant families moved by the Nicaraguan government from the surrounding mountains, where they became frequent and vulnerable targets for US-backed Contra guerrillas. Refugees in their own country, the children play at Cacharros and Guardia. Cacharros is the affectionate name for Sandinista soldiers, while the Guardia is how Nicaraguans refer to the Contra, whose members are drawn from the ranks of ex-President Somoza's hated National Guard. Not that the Sandinistas have always been the heroes in this village. After the 1979 revolution, summary executions by local Sandinista officials left Pantasma distrustful of both sides. Prosecution of the offenders, elections, land reform and gifts of tractors have helped improve the Sandinistas' standing, as did the massacre by Contras in October 1983 of over 40 local doctors, teachers and agriculturalists. Today, landmines are the main terrorist weapon. Last October, 40-year-old Guillermo Rodas was driving several local families into the village on a shopping trip when his truck ran over a US Claymore landmine laid by the Contra.
Me fui aquí, al venir aquí, arranqué. Cuando arranqué, la explosión que agarró a este lado la mina, aquí, levantando todo esto y arrancándole los pies, la gente gritando, unos chalitos con los ripas de fuera, otros con los ojos, y salí corriendo a buscar ayuda.
One of the passengers was 12-year-old Domingo Riveras. 6 people were killed, including a 3-year-old girl. 16 others, including Domingo, lost limbs. Such tactics by the Contra turn every local journey into a terrifying game of Russian roulette. Such tactics are also dependent on US military and financial aid. This January, over 500 Contras crossed from their bases in Honduras into these hills north of Pantasma. Their aim, to persuade a reluctant US Congress that they still represent a real threat to the elected government in Nicaragua and should therefore receive a further $60 million in aid in February. Ranged against them are the Cacharros of the 364th Brigade of the Sandinista Army. Poorly equipped, these are conscripts, young Nicaraguans, none of whom volunteered to wear these ragtaggle assortment of second-hand East European uniforms. But few will not have lost some member of their family during the repressive Somoza years, and motivation is high. So high that these particular conscripts form one of the elite BLC, or Fast Hunter battalions. In January 1987, they find themselves part of an operation to surround the 500-strong Contra incursion in a valley 10 kilometers northeast of Pantasma. From their headquarters in a farm once owned by the Somoza family, and long since redistributed to local cooperatives, they mount regular patrols to prevent the Contra from leaving the valley. Their intelligence tells them that already the main force is running short of ammunition and food. A smaller group, 15 kilometers to the west, is already unable to achieve its objective of attacking the northern town of Estali. Unlike the Contra in southern Nicaragua, these rebels have virtually no local support and are entirely dependent on the supplies they carry with them from Honduras. Further BLC units watch the local roads for signs of guerrilla activity. Here, a movement in distant undergrowth alerts the patrol to a recently passing Contra group. Tracks on the ground confirm the contact, but since the rebels appear headed back to their main grouping, no attempt is made to follow. 15 minutes later, the patrol returns to a forward observation post less than 2 kilometers from the hiding Contra. The BLC commander, 25-year-old Lieutenant Donald Blandon, attempts to report to headquarters using one of the many barely serviceable East German radios, which make up the Sandinistas' fragile communication network.
Hola, 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 a ver quién me copia.
Powered by unwieldy car batteries, they're typical of the outdated surplus equipment which makes up most of the Eastern Bloc's military aid to Nicaragua. They contrast with the Contra's new US radios, which allow them to jam Sandinista broadcasts with strings of obscenities. An even less welcome Warsaw-packed gift is the endless supply of tinned Russian meat, which, with rice and beans, forms the staple diet of the Cacharros. Ironically, the newest example of Soviet technology in the battalion is this Soviet AK rifle captured from the Contras. Most Sandinista weapons are 20-year-old North Korean and East German rifles. That night, forward units of the BLC and their companion regiment, the BLI, engage in mortar and machine gun fire with small groups of Contra attempting to escape the Sandinista net. By morning, the brigade commander, Captain Nestor Lopez, is sufficiently aware of Contra positions to order a helicopter attack. From a makeshift airfield 2 kilometers out of Pantasma, 2 converted MIL cargo helicopters of the Sandinista Air Force leave for the combat zone. Although the Air Force has recently taken delivery of the advanced ground attack Soviet Hind helicopter, most operations against Contra positions thought not to possess anti-aircraft weapons are carried out by slower and dated Mi-8 and Mi-17s. Both helicopters make an initial reconnaissance of the territory. A sniper in the leading helicopter attempts to identify the source of oncoming small arms and rocket-propelled grenade fire. Assessing this danger to be minimal, the pilot runs in for the first attack. Containment with ground forces followed by air attack is a strategy which minimizes casualties for the Sandinista, provided the Contra are denied more sophisticated anti-aircraft weapons. That this group of several hundred rebels should apparently not possess a single anti-aircraft weapon suggests to relieved Sandinista commanders that most of both legal and illegal US aid ends up in the hands of middlemen in Miami. Later, Army estimates put the Contra dead from this attack at 34. Operations like this, as well as desertions by Contras taking advantage of the continuing amnesty, have helped reduce their total fighting force from over 25,000 in 1983 to nearly 8,000 today. The attacks were to continue for several more days. Today, one of the attacking helicopters is used to bring to base the only Sandinista casualty of the day. Injuries from anti-personnel mines left by retreating Contra are the most common form of Sandinista casualty in these operations. This time, the mine has exploded under the foot of a 19-year-old conscript. Often it's the campesinos, or peasant farmers and their families, who suffer injuries like this, but without the ready attention of an army doctor. For the uninjured cacheros, there's time to relax before another day's operation. Morale is high because they're winning, and they know it. But whatever the army's success, the people of Pantasma know they're losing. Today has been another day when the rich agricultural potential of this area is wasted as scarce resources become diverted to the war. It's been another day when every passenger on this bus has lived in fear of hitting a US landmine at any moment. It's been another day for Domingo Riveras to contemplate a life with one leg. It's been another day for Pantasma, a village unwillingly at war.